1.6 billion minutes or 38 full lifetimes. That was what EA said that gamers spent on the beta version of Star Wars Battlefront, and I was right there with them. In fact, I played not only the beta but the alpha as well. I'm super excited for this game, but if your PC is not ready, it's time to start getting a move on. I mean, the game is coming out November 17th. So, in this video, I'm going to talk about everything you need to know so that your PC is ready to go when the game comes out. Now, to do that, we're going to take a look at 4 PC builds from lowly $500 budgets all the way up to $1,000 budgets that do an amazing job at playing this game. Clearly, the budgets in the $1,000 price range are going to get you to ultra settings on 1080p, but believe it or not, a PC in the $500 price range should put you on mostly ultra, some high settings at 60 FPS. Let's jump right into EA system requirements because I have a lot to say on this, and hopefully it's stuff you guys haven't heard before, but really, I just want to say that these system requirements are just a bunch of BS. Star Wars Battlefront is a Frostbite 3 engine game. It will not require the recommended PC system requirements that EA put for it. Why did they do this? Well, maybe they wanted people to think that the graphics were outstanding. And you know what? A game like Battlefield 4, the graphics are still outstanding to me. It's going to look much the same. It's going to be compared, maybe better lighting or effects than they've had since that point. But comparatively, it's still going to be about the same. So when they put here that the graphics card you need is going to be a GTX 970, that's absolutely ridiculous. You can get a GTX 970 to do this game ultra maxed out, no settings turned down at all, and still get probably over 80 FPS a second. We know this because we have a bunch of tests back from the beta. I mean, I guess there could be something outside the beta that just blows my mind, but I really, really, really doubt it. Also taking a look here, 16 gigabytes of RAM for 1080p. No, you're not going to need that. If you do end up needing that for some reason, then go out and buy it. I already have 16 gigs of RAM. I have a GTX 970. So, you know what? My experience was great, but you can also go on YouTube and find the GTX 970 with 8 gigabytes of RAM, and it didn't perform any differently, and I wouldn't expect it to. It doesn't even make any sense. So why do big game companies do this? Clearly, it's just a marketing gimmick. They say for AMD, you're going to need an R9 290. I'd recommend the 390 if you're going to go that route. For the same price, it's a little better performance than the GTX 970, but the 970 comes with a AAA title pretty much all the time. Right now, it's like Rainbow Six Siege you could get for free, or Assassin's Creed Syndicate, both of which are games that are pretty popular right now. So if you need those, then the GTX 970 kind of ends up in that $250, $240 range. Now, what do you actually need to play Battlefront? Well, if I was making recommended settings, what I would say is a GTX 960, an R9 380 with 8 gigabytes of RAM. That's going to get you ultra to high settings, well above 60 FPS, no problem, and it's going to look fantastic. Okay, we spent enough time talking about system requirements, so I'm going to jump in right into the build here, and we're going to talk about each part for each build and just kind of compare them as we go along. I'll try to do this as fast as possible, but at least you can see all the builds at once here. For CPU, I've got the i5-6500 for the $1,000 Skylake build. I wanted to separate that from a Haswell build. The Haswell build, the motherboard and those kind of parts are going to be a little bit cheaper. The DDR3 memory, slightly cheaper. And for that reason, with the Haswell build, we can get an i5-4690K and a Hyper 212 Evo. Of course, this is an unlocked processor compared to the i5-6500 and should give you equal to better overall performance. It should be pretty similar, I would think, in a game like this with a graphics card like what we're going to use. Still, though, you have to wonder if it's not the better option to have, an overclockable CPU like this one that's made for overclocking. $700 to $750 Haswell build. We're going with the i5-4460 and sticking with that one. And our $500 to $600 micro ATX build. All of these processors shouldn't bottleneck the graphics cards that we have. It's just a matter of whether you want to overclock or whether you don't care about overclocking, whether you want to go with Skylake or you want to stick with Haswell. Of course, if we start getting some reasonably priced unlocked Skylake processors, then we'd probably go with that. You can also scale down on some of the items that are below this and still end up with a $1,000 Skylake build with an unlocked Skylake processor. For a CPU cooler for the 4690K, we're gonna go with the Hyper 212 Evo. It's $25 right now at Amazon, and the thing performs as well as some models that are 3 times its price. Does a great job. I use it on several computers that I have here in my house. For motherboards, I've made a video and a post of my favorite Skylake motherboards as well as other motherboards, so you can go to those for more information. But basically, these are just good quality motherboards that happen to be at a reasonable price this month. For solid state drive, we're going with the 240 gigabyte Samsung 850 Evo, which is around $90. It might not always be in the budget to do that, so you might have to go down to the 120 gigabyte solid state drive at $70 if you're really going to do that. But it's really just more than tempting to spend $20 there and go up to the 240 gigabyte capacity, which doubles your capacity. For HDD, we're going to go with the Death Star, the 2 terabyte capacity version. They just are a pretty fantastic hard drive, very reliable. They're just what I'm using on pretty much everything. If you want to save a little money, you can go to the Western Digital Caviar Blue drive for around $47. But you know what? Again, for $17 here, you're doubling capacity. Hard to not do that. Okay, for a graphics card, for the $1,000 builds, you can go with the R9 390 or the 970. If you go with the 970, I like the MSI Gaming 4G model or the Asus Strix models. I like those Strix models pretty much on any of these cards. That goes across the board for the 960, 970. Any of the EVGA cards, the Strix just seems to be like a very good value card that also gives you a lot of performance and is reasonably quiet as well. The R9 390 is the better performing card here, and especially if you're going to play in 1440p, something to consider. But you're going to have to decide whether you need that AAA title. I mean, I know a lot of guys that need that AAA title, and so they'd rather have the what ends up being a $240 970. The 960 doesn't have the same deals on it, so I'm going to recommend you go with the R9 380 there. If you have any more questions about graphics card, you can post them below. I'll give you my thoughts on those. For case, I've written about my favorite cases before, talked about my favorite cases. For this instance, we're going to go with the Phanteks Enthoo Pro here. You don't have to go with such a nice case. This is about a $100 case. If you scaled it down, again, you might be able to fit in that overclocked, the unlocked Skylake processor. But you know what? It's good to have a nice case to build everything out from. I like stuff that you can use for years to come. That's why I'm recommending that. A new case that I'm recommending, the Thermaltake Versa N21. Thing looks fantastic. It's about $50. One of the best sellers right now, and really a great case to start off our $700 to $750 build with. For our cheap micro ATX case, we're going with a Fractal case. Fractal is a fantastic company. The Design Core 1000 I was able to find for as low as $29.99. So look around for that price if you really want that one. Or you might end up going with something like a Xeon ATX case if you can't find that and you still want to stick with your budget. You can go with something like that. For power supply, we're going with a gold-rated power supply. That on all across the builds, we're going with something a little nicer just because it's on sale this month. It's been on Newegg for $59.99 after rebate for the G1. This is a high-tier power supply, Japanese capacitor power supply that should last you several years, at least, I would say at least 5 years. So, you know, a good power supply like this, you can even transfer between PCs. It's good enough for everything that we've got here. So anyway, those are my thoughts on these 4 builds. I'd love to know what you guys think about them. You can also go to my website at top10gamer.com, where I'm going to have a link here, and we can talk about EA's system requirements. I want you guys to go there, take a poll on that. Let me know what you guys think of the build. Are you guys excited to play Star Wars Battlefront? Again, I certainly am. Let me know any questions you might have. All right, that's all I have for you guys today. Hopefully get another video out this week. Hopefully you enjoyed the graphs and the gameplay. I'm gonna put a link in the description below to Amazon, to all the different products that I mentioned in this video. If you wanna help out the channel, then please go there and buy your computer from me. It certainly helps me out. And, you know, somebody's got to pay for all these kids that I've got and all these expenses and Halloween costumes and stuff like that. So if you guys want to help out, you can go down there. Or you can even just go to my website and check out things there as well. Hopefully you guys are having a great day, and we'll see you next time.